Right, you ready?
Yep. There it is. The next click. My next guests on my podcasts. Two people with your combined experience. I don't know. You'd have more experience than most of the club put together. Darren and Carol Moore, welcome to my podcast.
Hello.
Now go to the first question. Same one for everyone. Ladies first. Carol, if you could be an animal, what animal would you be and why?
Look, Darren said that this was going to be the first question. I've never actually thought about it. I don't know what animal I'd be, to be honest with you. My favourite animal is a humpback whale. And the reason I like them is because they're just so large and so gracious and humble creatures that just swim around the ocean doing their thing. Amazing communication skills. So that's probably where I'd sit with the type of animal that would interest me the most.
That's brilliant. Corey, your dad was a whale shark. Like, I get a similar vibe. Similar vibe. Yeah. Dazzle, what animal would you be if you could be one, and why would you be?
Well, when I'm sitting at home, I'm watching the wedge-tail eagles glide over the mountain, and they're huge and graceful, and I reckon they're pretty cool, so I'd want to be one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bird's been a pretty popular choice. All right. Now we're going to get into our conversation. Normally I start asking, how you grew up and all the rest of it, but we might get to that through the conversation and maybe introduce yourselves in regards to the mountain biking community. Where did you guys start in the mountain bike community? Just a little snapshot. Just give us a quick brief, the both of you individually, of what you've been involved in.
You want me to start?
Yeah, you start.
Interesting. We probably started actually through BMX. So we got involved in BMX purely because we had a child and our neighbours, which happens to be Derek Raglis, his parents introduced us to BMX. So that's where we started. Obviously, Brad and Darren were the BMXers until one day somebody said, could you race for Tea Gully Club in the Iron Triangle as the female representative of the king and the queen of the Iron Triangle.
Roughly what year?
I'd have to think that, but probably 80s, 80...
late 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s, because Brad would have only been about 7. And, of course, what's he now? 43. So, yeah, that tells you how long ago. And I borrowed a bike. I think I borrowed some young lad's bike, and I won the race. So I became the queen of the Iron Triangle for that year.
And that led on to?
And then that led on to doing BMX myself, and I ended up holding 3 South Australian titles in the 25 and over female category. In BMX, I then became the state coach for BMX in South Australia for a couple of years. And then mountain biking was invented, if you like. And then we got into mountain biking. So we moved over from BMXing into mountain biking. And then we became a part of the induction of Inside Line Mountain Bike Club.
So it's the early 90s, the club kind of formed. There was an Adelaide Mountain Bike Club.
Yes.
In that mix as well.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And we'll stay with you, Carol, for a little bit. When the mountain bike club came, what was your view of? It's like you said, it's a new thing, the invention of it. How did you see that?
It was very exciting in the sense that, mountain bikes became a thing, and as it was evolving into an event, because we'd had the BMX background, so we were aware of events and aware of travelling nationally and that sort of thing, because we did a national event somewhere and got, some trophies there. So we knew all about the racing side of things. So to create racing officially in the mountain biking scene was very exciting. And we were being driven by some very eager people, like, Gary Patterson and Dave Mott and Bruce, Scotty, and a couple of others. And then the whole bringing together a bunch of people to race a mountain bike down a hill was just, next level. So it was just exciting to be part of something that was actually coming together.
And you had a lot of experience to fill that spot in a place where there was no experience yet.
Yeah, I think the whole being a part of that whole BMX world, we knew what it was to hold an event and race and the safety side of it as well, and then how to make it happen. We had a little bit of knowledge, not a lot, but we had a little bit of knowledge that we could bring to the table. Yeah,
just enough. Dazzle, how did you fall into this sport?
Oh, it was similar. I was Carol was the state coach for BMX. I was the club coach. I used to take the kids up Hansdy's Hill back in the day for training, for exercise up to the ruins. I used to ride my cruiser, and I used to come down on the cruiser thinking this is a lot of fun, coming down the hill. From there, I met a gentleman that worked at Ricardo, and I bought a Ricardo mountain bike, very ancient mountain bike. And
again, roughly what year?
Late 80s, early 90s, around there. So then I just started riding that, recreational with a group of guys. They called themselves the MTBers. There was Gary and Scotty and Luke and Aaron Ziggers and Moth, Maz. There was a whole bunch of us that started and riding mountain bikes. And then we went to a Sun Tour downhill, which was 92 and was opposite Devil's Gully now on the other side of the road. I don't know who was running or what. I know Sun Tour back in the day were doing races, and a couple of the guys in the group raced the downhill. We're like, oh, this is cool. So then from there, the next year, 93, we met, not sure who introduced me to Peter Mack, who owned Marble Hill, and we said, oh, let's have a race. This is in 93. Well, there was 12 of us that raced. I think Kaz was at the top with the timing and a walkie-talkie. Big Trav was down the bottom with a walkie-talkie. And there was myself, the two Zigger brothers, Aaron and Luke, Gary, Rob Merrison, Moth. There was a whole bunch of us. There was about 12 of us that raced. And that was good fun. And that was sort of an introduction of going against the clock. Prior to that, we have been racing each other down through the big fire trails in the Adelaide Hills. So it sort of came to that. And that was a really good day. And then bumped into Dave Mott, was introduced to him with Gary, and he wanted to put an event on. This was late 83. We'd already had the 93, and we'd already had the MTBers race, which was 12 of us. So then we're all right. Well, I know a property, Peter Max. Let's go to Peter Max. Don't know where the name Inside Line came from. Dave Mott had that already. Started putting it all together, and we had a race, and 100 people turned up. So it grew very, very quickly. From that, he then put together a group of South Australia's sort of top riders. As well, you were there, and we all went to Thredbo and competed, and that's sort of how it all started.
At that stage, was it called the Inside Line Mountain Bike Club? Or
It was.
Do you know a bit of the history of when it was just the Adelaide Mountain Bike Club? It was just cross country?
No, Adelaide Mountain Bike Club was cross country.
Yes.
And trials. That's where I was introduced to trials. But when I met Dave Mott, that's where we went to the meetings, and the name Inside Line was there. So I just turned up and met all the boys, and they said to me, I said, we've had a race at Marble Hill, and he said, we'll use Marble Hill. We went back to Marble Hill, had another race in 94. That was the first official Inside Line race. And that went off. That was like crazy. That was, we had two tracks, combined the two tracks times, and 100 people turned up. And believe it or not, in the little box next to me, I still have the official results from 1994, the first race.
We're hopefully going to get some footage of some of
Copies
Dazzle's
of
little
that, yeah.
gold box that he's got here.
Yeah, that's the original paperwork. It's now 30-odd years old.
What was your involvement in those earliest days? Were you
I was just in the early
just a rider,
days.
or you had experience in that situation
Coming
as well?
from BMX, I had, and at that stage I was also dabbling in trials. I had found a GT Ricochet, so I was dabbling in the trials.
What's trials?
Observed trials. Come on, Zol.
No,
Mate,
I know
that
what it
was-
is.
Yeah.
But people listening,
All right, well,
can you explain it quickly?
Well, if you've ever seen motorcycle observed trials, it's the same thing. It's basically you've got a section bunted off over some rocks, logs, barrels, car bodies, whatever they want to throw in front of you, and you've got to go through the gate and get through the other gate at the other end over the obstacles without putting your feet down. So if you put your feet down 5 times, it's a 5. If you put your feet down 0, well, you've done really well. So
a
that's
slow-moving, balance-based obstacle
Yes.
event.
Yes. It is. You don't have to rush at it. It's a lot of studying. I found in my days it was walking the courses and studying them.
Yeah,
So-
because on an event, can you explain? You don't get to practice. There is no practice.
No.
Like downhill, you can practice the downhill. You
That's
get the day
correct.
before. Trials,
No practice. You have to walk through the course. You can stand in it, walk through it, do whatever you want, study it, look at it, but until the event starts, you're not allowed to ride your bike in there, which is fair enough. I think it's good. Look, trials was fantastic. It's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. So back in the days with yourself and Steve and Damien and Hugh and all the boys, still one of my favourite things I've ever done in my life, trials. Downhilling was good too, don't get me wrong, but trials was exceptional.
you were probably one of the first people. I mean, Marshy got me hooked on trials because of his skills, but you knew trials before that. Who did you see trials? Where did you think this is something that I could do?
Well, I saw a trials bike in a store, and it was an old GT yellow Ricochet. So I bought it, not knowing much about trials.
Explain a little bit how that setup of that bike was to make it different than any other bike.
Okay, it was. This was a 20-inch wheels, little bash guard, small cog, had like a U brake on it, triple clamp fork, no suspension, bash guard underneath. And the idea is to be able to get through the obstacle as best you can with the low gear. As trials developed here in South Australia, we were going from just hopping on the spot to rear wheel and some quite extreme moves. And so I started doing that just around the local school for fun. And then I found out the Adelaide Mountain Bike Club had trials events at their cross country. So I went out there and did a whole bunch of events and thought this was really good. And then I was down at the school one day and this little blonde-headed kid come up to me and he says, I've got a trials bike. And his dad had got him a little hot foot, welded a small sprocket on a one-piece crank, bash guard. And I said, well, come over and have a practice. Well, Steve Marsh, the rest is history. He came over and wiped the floor with us all. And that's when we said, we got to take this guy to Thredbo. So in 94, he went to Thredbo and, as well you know, 5 national championships. He was good.
Inspired many people to get into the sport, me included.
Yes. Well, there was so many people back then that wanted to do the sport. Apart from watching it on the internet now, I don't see a lot of people, which is unfortunate, in this state anyway. So
It seems to have faded out, sadly. Like the freestyle BMX, I suppose it's really challenging. It looks impressive. See Danny McCaskill and you go, but then just to try the most simple things, it's really bloody hard.
Yeah, so that's sort of how I went from just being a BMXer into getting the Ricardo and moving on and meeting. It's more probably meeting the MTBers, the boys, and riding with them, with Gary. We just rode every weekend. Whenever we could, we just rode. We'd explore the Adelaide Hills. We'd even do runs in a little old blue van and go down Coach Road, Pound Road, trying to break 100 kilometres an hour. We all wanted to go fast on a mountain bike. So it was pretty crazy back in the day.
What sort of bike are you riding in those days? Or all the boys?
Oh, boy. Well, Gary came back from America with a specialised metal matrix, M2, which I bought off him, which he's recently in the last few years got back off me. I I had a Ricardo, I had a Dicomp, I had a Sake. Probably my most early days would have been a Mongoose Ibok Pro.
Dual suspension, I'm assuming.
No. We didn't have suspension back then. It was through a gentleman that worked at Rocker Brothers, John. He imported a couple of shockers for myself and himself, and they were called Scott Extra Shocks. And this is very early on in the early 90s, and that was my first experience with suspension, which was pretty cool. So it wasn't until about the mid-90s, I think, 95, 6, that I got a Amp Research Mongoose dual suspension bike. So, yeah, it developed very quickly. It went from just rigid mountain bikes and bang, it boomed. The sport took off. Mountain bikes took off. So faster than I could keep up.
And then, so between you got involved in this club called the Inside Line Mountain Bike Club.
Yep.
You mentioned Dave Martin, Gary. There's some other people, making moves to make this a legitimate sport. How did you become involved in that, Carol?
Well, the story that I tell is that I was, as everybody knows, I'm a nurse, and I was doing an afternoon shift, and I got home pretty late that night, as you do when you're finishing an afternoon shift. And there was these, I can't remember how many guys around my kitchen table, but it included Dave Mott, Scotty, Gary, Darren, and there was another person there, and we're trying to work out who that is. I just can't remember that person. But I walked in the door, and there's these guys and Darren just goes, "Oh, we're all here looking at putting a mountain bike club together." And I'm there, yeah, okay. And all I wanted was a cup of tea and go to bed, And then Darren says, "You got $1 coin?" And I went, "Yeah, why?" And he said, "Oh, we need to put $1 on the table to start the club." So I just gave him $1 coin, and that was that. So next thing I know, there's this thing called Inside Line Mountain Bike Club, and Darren's saying, "Oh, we're all getting a van together because we're shooting off to, was it Threadbay, to do the first race." I went, "Yeah, of course you are," and off they go. So that's my very first recollection of it. Then after that, when we started doing South Australian races, everybody was finding a hill. Wollonga Hill was the one we were involved in the very early stages. So I pretty much became like the organizer to take registrations, get people nominated, taking their money, while Gary ran around actually running the race, if you like, as the race director.
That's on your laptop with your mobile phone.
No, mobile phones. My mobile phone back then was, a little Nokia thing about this big, and no, everything was done with stopwatches, paper and
Pens
pen,
and paper, yep.
and little walkie-talkies, and that's how we ran an event.
Yeah, okay. Explain starting and start. How did the riders rock up? How did they get their time? There you go.
Yeah.
Between the two of you, spend a minute on that.
So what we used to do was we'd have 4 stopwatches. No, I think we started off with 2 stopwatches, one at the top, one at the bottom, a walkie-talkie, someone at the top, someone at the bottom. And you just had this line on the ground, and that was the start line. And you'd count the person down, and when you hit 1, they took off. And as they took off, you pressed the stop. And with that, you were on the walkie-talkie. So the person down the bottom knew to start their stopwatch. That's it. And
with the rider's number plate.
With the rider's number, that's it. And so the person would take off, and then when they get to the bottom, the person at the bottom would go, "Arrived," and then you'd stop the stopwatches, and that's your time. And we'd record the time, and then we would work it out. We soon realised that if a stopwatch failed, the person didn't have a time. So that's when we came up with the brilliant idea of let's have 2 stopwatches at either end of the racetrack. And so we got pretty good at it. We were within 2 seconds of
Accuracy
of that, as long as our other biggest problem was the walkie-talkies running out of battery.
And what, they'd go off at 30-second interval or a minute
No, a
interval?
minute. We did it. We did it
just-
on the minute.
Okay.
Because that was how we could make it as accurate as we could. 30 seconds was just too tight for the very sophisticated system we had at the time.
How many riders do you reckon were at those events, and what were their ages?
Oh,
Estimate.
Well, they were all males and they were all young men. Our youngest probably would have been in their very late teens, early 20s, up to about 30, I reckon.
well, the first event there was 3 women, which was Peter Mack's daughter,
Oh, that's right.
Deborah Quadra,
Deborah Quadra, that's right.
who was going out with Dave Mott at the time, and there was 3. Like I said, I have
there's
the
a connection.
Yes,
There, okay.
yes. So, and it was stopwatches in the beginning for quite a few years. That's all we had. But yeah, the first event we put on at Marble Hill was just an organised single event. When we got back from Thredbo, there was nothing actually put in place to continue Inside Line. We had the name. There was nothing going on. It sort of come to a bit of a halt, so we thought we needed to have more races than just one a year. So we sat down and we started up Inside Line sort of again as a club, and Gary was treasurer, looking after the money side of it. Bruce Miller-Smith, Scotty, made the Adrenaline, the newsletter. I got suckered to be president.
Was that the first year?
That was 94.
94.
So
this is a history lesson. You are the first elected president of probably the oldest mountain bike club in Australia, maybe beyond that.
possibly
No,
first
downhill.
elected. See, Dave Mott organised this prior to me. That was in the end of 93, 94. But we were,
And at that
we were a
stage,
group.
they didn't have that organisation. They didn't know what they're doing. Their couriers were just, let's make this thing happen.
Oh, they
What
did
are the
one.
rules? What are the laws?
We
What
all
do we
got
have to
together
do
and did it
to
as a
be
group.
legal?
Yeah, they did an amazing job.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's no two ways about it. They
Marble
had-
Hill went off like a rocket. 100 people.
There's a
It was-
double-decker bus
Yes.
and all of that.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they really went all out and did a great job. You have to take your hats off to them for that.
We had to build a secondary track, so we had to run 2 tracks to get 2 combined times. So the second track was down the clothesline path, concrete path, under the clothesline, and then we made a little track through the scrub.
Yeah.
So,
There's probably 3 or 4 corners in the whole track. Yeah.
oh,
A
the
couple
scrub was
more.
pretty steep at Marble Hill in the day, so that was pretty good. The original track that was the other track that was used was the Fire Road, which you'd be familiar with the jumps and the big chute. That was the one that we used in '93, just with 12 of us. So, and then after that, Peter Mack was always on board. He used to video us and everything. And then after that, believe it or not, we even had a cross country at Marble Hill. Nobody knows about that. I've got the flyer still.
Yes.
And then
I got some footage of that in the early days.
there you go.
Yep.
And after the first downhill, that's when the dual slalom was built. And I've got penciled maps of where we were putting jumps and everything. And that went off really well. It just became hard because the numbers started getting too big and there was no car parking. That was our biggest problem with the council at Marble Hill. There was no car parking. We were parking on the edge of pretty steep roads, so a bit scary.
Take us back a step earlier now. We've talked all about the club. We're going to come back to it. Tell us about little Darren Moore growing up. When you were a little baby boy, tell us about your family. Before you met your lovely wife, what do you
Okay.
remember about your childhood in your primary school years, your family? Tell us about that.
Most of my... I went to Parafield Primary School, then we moved to Enfield and I went to Nailsworth Primary, Nailsworth Boys Tech, which became girls in the second year. And I had 3 brothers, so we were all very competitive. I was the one that was always collecting bits of bikes and building them and asking my dad to turn dragsters into choppers by welding big rods in the forks and cutting them, which I found out later after going over a few jumps. It's not a good idea. They snapped off and I face planted in the ground off some pallets. But and then I think it was around, I can't remember what, my brother got a BMX. It was the first time I'd seen a BMX and that was cool. We were making jumps we didn't have dirt, so we were just making ramps over fences and things. And yeah, that was just so much fun. Then when I moved to St Agnes, my son was born, and I had a BMX, and John Raglis, which is Derek's father, Derek Raglis, he just pushed us to take Bradley to the BMX track.
Because John was a part of the BMX association.
Yes, he was. So I started taking Bradley racing, and from there I used to go around there on my BMX, do jumps, do wheelies, and John wanted me to race as well. I sort of coaxed us both into it. So I started racing, and I remember my first race, getting elbowed off a berm, thinking, oh, this is a bit rough. by another older guy than me, oh, this is a bit rough. But then I learned if you're in front, you don't get elbowed off the berm. So, but my brothers never really took up cycling.
What was your age and where were you? Youngest, oldest, middle brother? What were you?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest.
So I had three youngest, and we've all been into motorbikes. We've all had super bikes. We've all rode around Adelaide International Raceway, we weren't allowed to, Malala, Mac Park. My brothers went over to Phillip Island. We were right into the motorbikes back in the Gardner and Doohan days, so we were pretty heavily into the two wheels, that side of it. I've had quite a few motorbikes, which has been a little bit of a downfall for me in the, 1982. I was sitting at some traffic lights, and a gentleman in a Toyota Celica had apparently a couple of beers and tried to run the red light. Well, unfortunately, I was on the other side of that, and they put me in hospital for 4 months. So, but it never stopped me. I was straight back on as soon as I was out of plaster, I was straight back on a bicycle.
How old were you when that happened?
19. So
prime of your life.
Yes. At that stage, I had a son, so Carol concentrated on her career at nursing, and I looked after Bradley. I used to donkey him to primary school at St Agnes on a BMX side hack, put him on the side and take him down there. So it was quite entertaining, bit of fun. So
ages and numbers can get a bit tricky, but you're saying you're 19 and you're not 19 anymore, and somewhere in there you guys did meet, and obviously you fell in love and you had a child, and you've stuck through that process for a number of years now.
Yeah, I think the first time I met Carol, were you 8?
No.
9. She was 9 years old. And then we started through the families, and I think we started dating when we were seeing each other 15, 16. No?
We were 13, 14.
Oh, that young, were we? Okay.
Do you remember the movie Corvette Stingray?
I do.
Look that up. It's got Mark Hamill in it from Star Wars. It's his movie before he got into Star Wars. We went to see that movie in the picture theatres in Hoyt Cinemas, I reckon it was, in the city.
Mm. And if I recall, you rang me up.
I did. So, we're about 13, 14.
We went on a camp. I remember we were on a camp together, and that's sort of where it all started. And there were girls and boys on the camp, and all I remember is my R.M. William boots getting filled up with tea and honey. Mm-hmm. So I dragged her through a mud puddle. We fell in love.
Just like that.
Just like that. She rang me up and said, "You want to go to the movies?" Oh, okay, why not? So,
how do you navigate and keep that going for all these decades? What's your secret to
tolerance?
I don't know.
No.
It works.
People think we're funny because we'll still hold hands and,
It works.
That's magnificent.
I know.
Yeah, it works.
Been married for 41 years and we've known each other longer, so it just works. It's been a partnership. Back in the early days, I worked at downtown and we roller skated together. So we've done everything together. Then we did BMX together. And then we did mountain biking together, travelled the country with all our good friends, and been all over the place, and we're still together today. So,
bloody fantastic. Do you see? It's not easy for that to happen. Like it's uncommon. It's 13, 14 years old. To stay together this whole time and still enjoy doing all that stuff together.
I don't know. We've just always hit it off. It's been a partnership, and we've just always hit it off. Like we laugh at each other's jokes, and we just love each other. I shouldn't say that, should I?
Yes, you should.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So there you go. Big softy I am. She'll tell you I'm a big softy.
He's the romantic one, not me.
Yeah, I am. So
What's an example what he does that's romantic?
Oh,
Carol?
just look at my phone every single day. I love you, Kaz. Hi,
True.
Kaz.
True.
How you doing, sweetheart?
true.
It just happens all day, every day.
Are you listening out there, people? This is how you create a good long-term relationship.
Yeah.
He's the present buyer. I'm not the present buyer. He'll always buy presents, and he'll always buy thoughtful presents. But he gets up in the morning and makes me a coffee before I go to work.
Like I said, it's a partnership.
Yeah. So he'll get up, make a coffee, proper barista coffee. So he's learnt to be a barista just for me.
You don't drink coffee?
I do, yeah. Oh, you can learn anything off the internet. You just type in barista and learn everything.
Yeah.
So
And then I'll come home late at night from work and the fire will be on.
yeah.
It's just simple stuff like that.
And where would that fire be on? Where is your home now, where that fire is?
Well, our home is up at Mt Torrens, and I'm pretty sure you've heard of the place they call Dazzleland now. I don't know where Dazzle came from. I've had that nickname since I was trialsing with you, I think. So, it's been there forever. And then when we moved back in 2004 to Mt Torrens, the Adelaide Mountain Bike Club, because we had cross countries there, we've had 12 hours, we've had 4 hours, gravity enduros downhill, and they made up a poster, "Welcome to Dazzleland," and kept sticking it on the gate. I still have the same poster today, putting it on the gates every time there's an event on. It was on the gate last weekend because there was an event on one of the, what do they call it now? The First Ascent series.
Oh, the juniors, more the younger kids?
Yeah, the kids love it. The kids don't like walking up, but once they realise that there's a good, fun little track to come down, they're happy as, telling me how fantastic it is. Thank you for letting me come here and ride your track. And I said, anytime, so... Yeah.
What was hilltop transport like in the early days? Was it a lot like that?
Marble Hill was walk. So, and if I remember, Devil's Gully was walk. There was a lot of them in the early days walking. It was even hard at the first 94 downhill at Wollonga. We had to transport everybody up. But it was a bit awkward because we used the road as the downhill, the dirt road. The first one at Wollonga was down the dirt road, which I just think was crazy. Cause
That's just a few guys with four-wheel drives were just dinking people up there.
With trailers.
Yeah. We'd get a couple of four-wheel drives, a couple of trailers, and just jam everybody in and drive up the top. It was very scary. So not the scariest hilltop transport I've had to endure. I think Nundle was scary.
Nundle was the worst, yeah.
Laying on the back of flatbed four-wheel drives, laying on the back, linking arms not to slide off, going up these crazy hills. And that was for a race at Nundle, one of the national series we did 2003, I think.
So you were essentially the first president of the Mountain Bike Club, and did you keep involved from there? What was your at the high level? How did you guys keep going from there?
Oh, once the first event was over in '94, which was a combined group with Dave Mott and everyone, we put the event on. Gary, everyone was there. Once we had that, like I said, there was it was a bit funny what was going to continue after that, after the Nationals. So we were really keen to keep it going. So back in those days, I became president in '94 after those events, because I don't think there was a president, don't know. And then I did it for a year or two, and then Carol did it for a year or two. So for those early 90s years, we both took it in turns to keep the club and to build the club. From what I remember, Carol even got grants for junior classes from the government to keep all that going. So we had some pretty cool little juniors back then. We had Nari Jenkins and Luke Radnor and Benny A, I think, won the first one at Marble Hill in '94. And there was still, even in that, there was still a good dozen or more juniors. So they were there from the beginning.
And what's the age of those juniors? What's the youngest, roughly?
It wasn't like there was a young lad at my house on the weekend. He just turned 10, brilliant little rider. They weren't that young. They were juniors, like under 18, sort of 16, that sort of age group.
They weren't driving cars yet. That
No.
made you a junior.
No. So, yeah.
And so you got dobbed in to be present as well.
Oh, look, there was, after Darren, there was a few others. Like Gary was president for a while, and there was a chap named Bob, and then Andy came along. And then whilst that was happening, I was more like the treasurer and secretary. But majority of what I was doing was actually on the race days. I was predominantly doing the registrations and doing the timing, making sure. So I dabbled in racing, but I was more keeping things going so people could actually race. And then the presidency became vacant, and so I just took it up. And I held that role for a couple of years. There was a couple of other players in there. There was Travis Smith, who was helping with sponsorship, and we had track cycles involved as well because they were providing a lot of the prizes. And so that's how we sort of got it evolved. And during that time, we got like a constitution, and we got a code of conduct. And so we started to formalise it more and more as the years went on. And we got it registered with MTBA because there was another thing we were involved in. MTBA hadn't been invented either. So Gary had
and
some
MTBA
meetings.
was the national organisation for mountain
It became
biking.
the national organisation. So Gary had meetings with...
Was it ACF in the beginning?
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
ACF
That's
in the
right.
beginning. And then I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name from Canberra. So we started... So I went
Tony?
over... Tony Scott?
Tony Scott?
Tony Scott. So we went over to Canberra, and I met up with Tony Scott, and we talked about code of conducts and the development of the MTBA as it was back then as a national registry body, so people could have licences and insurance and all those sorts of things. So there was a lot going on in that space to make it more a formal product called mountain bike racing. Other clubs were getting involved, either downhill clubs or cross-country clubs, or some that did both. And so it was a very much an evolution of mountain bike and mountain bike racing through the 90s and early 2000s. I then decided to step back from that because the other thing was I was heavily involved in university studying my degrees in nursing, trying to bring up a child, trying to round up a husband who was going off to all these mountain bike races. So we were just, so we were just having a lot of fun making all this happen. And so there was a period of time where I stepped out just so I could finish my studies and consolidate what I was doing there. And then that's when I probably got more involved in racing myself. Yeah.
Have you stepped back from the management roles at this stage as well, Dazzle? You're just, you're always there. You're at all the events, all the races, but you're not president, you're not treasurer. You've kind of stepped back from all of that. This is early 2000s now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was always around helping. We'd always pull out a pick at building trails. I remember herds of us walking down the hill, picking into the hillside, building trails and finding places. And even in that time, I was still going out, when there was other presidents, going out to some tracks like Bennett's, and we were cutting the pine trees, a tunnel through the pine trees to create a track with a couple of helpers. So I was always there in the background sort of helping. But, yeah, I didn't take any heavy committee sort of membership side of it.
You were there at the start and then you took a step back. But in that time, you were still pretty heavily involved in the trial side of things, inspiring and probably providing a backyard for people like Marshy and myself to practice riding this crazy, strange sport called bike trials.
Oh, yeah, my backyard was famous in the state. I think everybody that did trials would come to the backyard. We'd have gatherings all the time. It's a very small dolomited area with some boxes that were we'd get donated paint through Track Cycles, and that the boss would buy it, and we'd paint up all the boxes, and we'd just have a ball in the backyard, just doing our own thing. Get a bit of chalk, make our own sections, and then going out to some demonstrations. I remember demos at Rundle Mall Festival Theatre, the Velodrome. Even at the events like at Wollonga, we'd put on a demo, and people were fascinated by trials. The spectators that had never seen it and watched it, they loved it. It was spectacular to watch. And again, I still think that was the best thing I ever did, was hopping in the volatile van or whatever transport it was at the time, and going to a school and finding some moss rocks, and just playing with the boys. It was the best fun. There was no real pressure on you doing that. Unlike downhill, where you've got to practice and there's a bit of pressure, and being competitive you've got to get the best out of you on a downhill run. Trials, you just go and have fun. And you'll
try and get over that rock and try and get over the bigger one.
That's it. You just have a go. I mean, I'm pretty happy. I did 10 national championships in observed trials, and I did 11 national championships in downhill. And I've been pretty fortunate to do okay. So
you got a reasonable trophy collection. I've some video of you back in the day, and you had a reasonable trophy collection back then. I'm sure there's probably a couple more in there since then.
Oh, it's pretty huge. I had some new people on Inside Line on the weekend with the race walk into my shed, and they saw the trophies. They said, "Look how many trophies you've got." And I said, "All the good ones are inside." And they're like, "What?" And then they were just walking around in the shed looking at signed posters of all the stars, Hans Ray, to Dazzle, Keep Trialsing. Troy, when he was in his Specialised, it's quite funny because it says we'll drink the champagne for him because he was a junior wearing the World Championships.
Young Troy Brosnan, you're speaking
That's
about.
young Troy Brosnan. And then we've got, I've got Marshy, of course, and then we've got Nathan Rennie and Sam Hill. I've got all these signed posters. Ryan Leach. I've got all these signed posters in my shed. So it's a bit of a, what did they say? They said it's a bit of a museum, a mountain bike museum in the shed.
Well, you've been around for a while, so...
There's some bikes in there going back to the very early 2000s. And it's funny because there's a young lad with his parents. They looked at my trials bike. They had no idea what it was. They're like, "What is that? Where's the seat?" I said, "It's observed trials." So I had to try to explain to them. And this was the funny thing. He typed in on the internet, and he pulled up the video of what you've shown, and he showed me this thing, me in my red shorts and yellow T-shirt. And he goes, "Is that trials?" I said, "Yeah, that's me."
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
They're like, what? I said, "Yeah, that's from Volatile Visions back in the day." So, yeah, it was quite funny.
For both of you here, you got so much pride, and deservedly so. What's a really proud moment for each of you? And it's probably not winning a race or anything like that, but what's something that you go, "Oh, I'm really proud of this moment"? What have you got, one or a couple each?
I think my proudest moment is us having a mountain bike track that people can come and learn the art of mountain biking, but also experience the community of mountain biking, and be able to do it in a safe and fun way. And for me to actually stand there and go, I was able to contribute to that, I think that's a very proud moment.
Some people have a vegetable patch in their backyard.
Exactly.
You've got a mountain bike track.
Yeah.
We do.
How lucky are we? Yeah.
Dazzle, what's if you talk about something you're really proud of?
Oh, again, having the track there, and just when the kids come up to you and they say, "Thank you for letting us come and use your track," it makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. It's really good. But some of the proudest things, like Kaz and I winning in the same year 2 National Series championships and getting both our jerseys and green and gold jerseys at the same time in the same year. That was pretty proud. So that was quite an achievement. A lot of hard work, but that was good. And to see back in the days, I was the club coach for Inside Line for quite a while. Carol was the club coach too. We had we had coaching at Eagle Mountain Bike Park. We had coaching at our place, and Steve involved himself in the coaching too. So there was a few of us back in those days that did coaching, and to see those kids come through, regardless of whether it was from our help or not, but to see them come through and become what a lot of them have become now is incredible. So,
what about the progress of the sport? You've been there since before it started, and you're still heavily involved since last weekend.
yeah.
What are some of the bigger changes? I mean, there's too many to list, but accessibility to trails, like how many mountain bike parks were around at the start?
Not many at all.
I don't think there was any. I think we created.
Where could you legally, like where was legal and illegal? There you go. When you started.
Oh, I think we got hold of Ian Tanner was his name, the ranger.
Yeah.
And he helped us get into Fox Creek. The Adelaide Mountain Bike Club were already having cross countries there, and he allowed us to build downhills like Steep, Bowl. These are the original, which is now Fame, and the original Bowl and stuff like that. So he allowed us to go in there, and he even allowed us to get into Bennett's. That was a little bit later on. We even had a race at Centennial Drive. That was one of. That wasn't really successful. The people who were walking the Hyson Trail weren't happy about mountain bikers barrelling down their trail, so that only ever happened once. Now, and the funny thing was, growing up with Anstey's Hill in our backyard at St Agnes for 18 years, everyone would ride, all the MTBers boys that I rode with were all local, so we'd ride there. And now that it's actually a legal mountain bike park is pretty remarkable. So the friends of Anstey's aren't happy about that, but it happened.
Because you couldn't ride Belair, you couldn't ride Mount Lofty.
No.
If you were found with your mountain bike riding in Mount Lofty, what would happen?
Oh, they're not happy. You'd have to run.
The rangers would be after you.
Yeah.
And they'd take your name and address and tell your mum and dad. So,
yes,
yeah,
many a times I was with a friend Tim, and I was Ned Overend, and he was John Tomac.
Ranger Tim.
You know the man. Well, we had to do what we had to do. So,
how do you fathom progression from what you see the sport now with? You've got a hill where you've got only juniors, and how many of them are there?
there's hundreds.
And in the start, there wasn't the oldest junior on last Sunday would have probably been not even in existence when we started.
Oh, no. None of those juniors would have been born back in the early 90s. It's just, it's incredible. We never thought when we started the club as a bunch of beer-drinking adults that now the club would be dominated, literally dominated by kids. And to see the kids being out in nature and riding their bikes and smiles on their faces, it's funny, you know, you can stand in the paddock and hear their chatter and they're just so into it. They're just you just got to stand there and listen to them talk. It's incredible. So
keep going. I'm just going to turn that camera on there.
okay.
What else makes you happy about still being involved?
We just giving back, I suppose. The sport has been for Kaz and I incredible. We've met so many good friends. We have a group of really good friends now that we holiday with, mountain biking. You probably know Paul that was here with Rubberside Down and Monica, Mark and Julie and Aurelia and Jason. We go on holidays all over the country with them and have been doing it for decades. You know, like places like the Melrose, the Fat Tyre Festival. And one of my favourite places to ride would have to be the Otway Ranges above Apollo Bay in the town of Forest. I just love the big tree ferns, the big green forest. It's beautiful over there. So, okay, pause a minute on that event. I know a few guys that do that, the Otways. Yes. Well, that's when you want to talk to Carol. She's been there this year and already competed in it again.
Still competing. Still competing.
She'll never stop.
Still competing.
What is competition to you? Is it about winning or is it just about participating?
No, it's about winning. There's no two words about that.
She's still competitive.
It's about being a part of something that's really bigger than yourself and being able to do something that, regardless of your skill level, you can have a go and you are accepted. You know, people encourage you, support you, barrack for you, and always willing to share their knowledge and skills, and so you can have a better experience. So that part of it just tells you just want to keep doing this, because it's if you're looking at it from a well-being perspective, it just keeps you in a good frame of mind. You feel refreshed and you're energized, and it's a nice tired. It's not that tired that you get when you work and doing things that you have to do. This is something you want to do, and that just keeps you going. Yeah.
In that competitive scene, does it always work? Does it always go right?
No.
What happens
That would
when
be
it goes?
amazing. That would be amazing if it goes right all the time.
What's an example of it going wrong, and how do you cope with that?
Last Sunday, the blown out corner that you forgot about.
Yeah. We were practicing on our track, and I was doing really well on the track, and I was really positive that I was going to nail this one. And when it came to the race, I got through almost the entire track doing really, really well. I was on song. And then there's this last bit that had blown out on the track, and I knew it was there, but I rode straight into it and it pulled me up. So that meant I got down to the bottom of the track and I didn't win. I was not happy.
I heard about it.
Yeah.
In a nice way.
That's when you just walk away and just go,
At least it wasn't mechanical. Mechanicals are worse, aren't they?
No, but I actually did get a pinch flat the day before. And I took that as being, well, I'm pretty gnarly. If I can do a pinch flat,
She did. Pushing hard. Hit the rock garden and pinched a tube.
I'm going hard.
Dazzle, has it always worked for you?
Oh, on and off. I've always been 100% committed to when I ride down a hill, and that's it. You practice, and then come to race run. You've just got to do what you've learnt. And look, I did finish bridesmaid a number of times in downhill, like at nationals. I've got more silvers, a lot of silvers, a few bronze, couple of golds, but it's just racing. You just got to give it your all.
Is there anyone ahead of you that, he's bloody got me again? And you just give them kudos and you go, well, you're quicker than me, good to you.
Oh, because I went through the age groups from elite, then I hurt my leg at Fox Creek. I stabbed my leg with the brake lever in the original bowl, got taken off in the ambulance. There's always, like, going through the different class, that like from veteran to masters to super masters to go through, there's always someone in there that's equally as quick, or there's a couple of them that it's a competition. You've just got to give it your all, and 9 times out of 10, I'll get on the podium. Doesn't mean I always win, but I've given it my all, and I'm happy with that. I walk away pretty happy. So
Who are a few of those people with you? I mean, if they're still doing it now, they've been doing it a long time together. Who are some of your buddies that you share the podium with?
Oh, back in the day, I'd say it would have been Ollie. Ollie was there with me. There was
Ollie Klein.
Yeah, he was racing veterans with me for a while there. We had a good battle one year. Evan James, and he was all the boys that were just in that progress. Sometimes I would, because I was older, I'd go up to the next group and they'd still be in the group below. And it worked the same at the Nationals. There's a couple of times I got second, and I would be at the end of that age group, and like Rob Eva.
They have to create a new age group for you.
And then someone that would be like Rob Eva would be younger,
like
and he'd come in. And
they've got to have old man. I don't know.
I think they call it Ultra Supermaster 60 plus. So, I mean, if I could, I'd be probably still racing today. But unfortunately, after the accident I had when I was 19, the knee won't allow it. I was still riding up until last August, and something happened with my knee. Got taken to the doctor, and he couldn't believe I was standing up. I was in a lot of pain. So by September, they put a new knee in. I had a knee replacement, and the only thing restricting me at the moment is the amount the knee will bend to put the dropper post down and ride. I can sit on the seat and ride recreational, which is fine, because then I'll go riding with my granddaughter Ruby, which I'll probably be doing next weekend. Hang on, no, not this weekend. Weekend following. But yeah, it's a bit tough at the moment. But you know, just watching the kids on the weekend, it just put a smile on my face, and everyone wandering around happy. So made me really happy. Watching Kaz have fun with her and Julie coming up and down the hill, it was just makes me happy. So
Is that, apart from your young incident, through the rest of your mountain biking career, have you had injuries that have sidelined you for a long time?
No. Like I said, I stabbed my leg with the brake lever going over the handlebars, being clipped in. That severed an artery, so I had to have the leg opened up 16 stitches later. That was all good. It was a bit messy looking, but it was all good. Nothing really stopped me.
Someone by your side that can help explain all the scary moments for you? Oh, this is what's happening.
She'd say there'd be more, but no, not really. No.
So you're pretty fortunate then to be riding for, 30, 40 years, and you've got your first showstopper. At the moment, you're dealing with that.
Well, I always said you ride at 110%. If you ride at 110, more than 110, you're going to come off. So
that's what happened.
Yeah. So you ride at, you keep it at about 110%. People say you ride at 100%, but I would push it.
Yeah.
If you want to get on that podium, you've got to push it.
You've got a shed full of trophies.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
So how does you've had this surgery, you've had a new knee put in.
Yep.
Before you're going into it, what's your headspace like? And then what do the doctors tell you? And then what's your headspace like how many months later?
Well, I honestly thought I'd just have the knee replacement and I'd be better than ever. I'd be like the Bionic Man. But unfortunately, I think when they've extended the leg and put the new cartilage in, the new knee in and all what they've done, it's just tightened up my ligaments and it's not allowing me to get that bend back. And we've been working on it. I would sit on the kitchen table and Carol would be pushing on the knee and I'd be screaming. But we've tried, and I think it's just, I've sort of come to the conclusion it's pretty much where it's at now. Probably get a little bit more, and my riding from here on in will just be recreation, which is a bit disappointing after going.
Yeah, bloody oath. You're still so young.
Going up with all the boys that I ride with, they were still racing downhill and doing really well. I've been chasing them.
Well, half of them have given up and they don't even do anything, Dazzle.
So
no, I think you're many points
These
ahead.
are young lads.
Yeah.
So these are young lads still racing today, and I love chasing them.
Yeah.
You know, I love staying on their tails, but I think that's come to an end.
So how does, when you're lying at bed at night and you're going, I tried to bend my leg, I should be here by now. How do you, when you fall asleep at night, does it keep you awake?
Not at the moment. It is a bit, it's a bit upsetting because I know where I want to be and I know what I want to do, but I'm restricted by it. Sometimes I'll even dream that I'm doing downhill racing. It's a funny thing, you know. I chase my mates out just on recreational ride, doing runs in the bus, you know, up at Fox and stuff. No, it doesn't really keep me awake. I sleep reasonably well. It's just in the back of my mind now. I don't know what the future's going to hold for me riding aggressively again. So I don't know what to do. Yeah.
Bit of reality check, eh?
It's a
How
big
young are you
reality
now,
check.
Dazzle?
Is
that okay to ask? You can
21, was it?
Oh, well done.
62 years old.
Bring a bit of that in there, Dazzle.
Yeah. No, I'm 62 years old, so... And, you know, like even last year riding, I was still styling, whipping, going to anywhere where there's jumps. I still love it. And in my head, I can still do that. I can still... You know, I can feel it within my body. I can still jump and style and do everything, but I just can't with the knee.
The muscle memory is all there.
It is, yes. It's
You've
all
just
there.
got to get your body to just come back in line.
Yes, which not sure where that's going to be at in the future, but it's okay. I'll watch Kaz. She's still out there racing, so I cheered her on the weekend, so I gave her a big cheer. She never hears me. I said, "You hear me cheer?" Nah. So she's too focused. That's what it is. She told me she just focuses on the track.
She's got more trophies to put in the cabinet. She's got to make up for you now.
Yeah, she's got plenty of new ones. So every time she goes out, she comes home with a new trophy. Yeah, it does.
Personalities. Who are some people close to your heart in the mountain bike community?
Close to her.
Oh, it'd have to be Jules and Mark Harris. Have to be Paul Barker with Monica. There's some really cool characters. Marshy, always has to be Marshy. He's always in the mix now with Alice. So, that's the other, lovely thing, that it just grows and grows. Yeah. Some really long-term people like yourself and Gary Patterson, Glenn Holloway. There's some really long-timers. Luke Myers. We haven't mentioned Luke. Luke was, when I was president, Luke was, I suppose, very instrumental for me because he was the one that kept all the tracks going for me. So we haven't mentioned that. And Glenn, he built our track, got that up and running. So, there's some really memorable people. Not only are they friends and it's almost like they're colleagues, in a work site, but in this world of mountain biking. But then, there's Derek Raglis, who was a young fella living next door to us with our son, and he's still around, so, we've got some long-termers.
Yeah, we see a lot of the old mountain bikers all the time.
Aurelia
it's quite amazing.
And Jason, and then you've got Ollie and Jen, and then you've got Mia and Jimmy. These are people that we still see regularly. We still see a lot. We still ride a lot with. As Darren said, we holiday with. We barbecue with, and, special moments where we, go out to dinner and things like that. So
the last 2 weekends we went to the beer house at 4:30. That's where you'll find Steve and Alice. Happy hour.
But I think the big thing that I want to call out, if you don't mind, Zolly, is that some people know that our property burnt down in the 2019 fires just before COVID, and everything was burnt. The house was still standing, the main sheds were still standing, but they were smoke damaged. We were displaced for a couple of days. We couldn't go home. We had no running water. We had no electricity. We were fortunate enough, our son and his beautiful wife were able to put us up for a couple of days. Darren went back home to the house and it was still burning 3 days later. So for us that was very confronting and very frightening. We had animals that had, died. And Darren put something on Facebook, I think it was, about, I'm going home to clean up. And we got there and all these people just turned up from the mountain biking world.
Huge amount of people.
Huge amount of people. And they just arrived. What can we do? How can we help you? What would you like us to do? And to me, that just tells you that, you're in a world where you're cared for and people want to help you and they just want to be there for you. And so this just gives us the opportunity to say, huge thank you to those people. And those people are still in our lives today. So that meant so much to us, didn't it?
Yeah. I remember seeing Steve cleaning up ash off the roof, and Jason was helping me. Jason and Aurelia. Jason was helping me with plumbing. Will from Wheelride was there cutting up dead trees, burnt trees. There was just mountain bikers everywhere, just wandering around cleaning up.
Just putting out, helping us round up animals that were still alive and housing them, and just cutting down things that needed to get rid of, just pulling things away, putting things on piles so we could get rid of them, and raking. And they just bogged in. I remember even Paul Barker turned up in a white T-shirt. That just cracked me up. And but he got in and they just helped. Family were there. So so you just sort of think there's more to this mountain biking than just going out racing, riding, and then going home. It's a huge community, and if anybody can be a part of that, get onto it, because for us, it's been an amazing journey.
The mountain bike tracks were decimated. There was no mountain bike tracks, no bridges, no wooden framework. Everything had burnt, and again, it was the mountain bike community that came and rebuilt a lot of the tracks. And today, they're still coming. There's a gentleman, David Crouch, that was there. He must have been there 8 hours this year, whippersnippering trails all by himself. He's just walking up and down. And if it wasn't for him cleaning the trails, well, it wouldn't happen. So,
if it wasn't for you buying a hill,
well, yeah, that was just
build
to
it
get back
and they
a
will
bit.
come.
Yeah, it was just.
But no one else really did that. You guys should be pretty proud of that
Back
legacy
in the day,
you've created.
There wasn't enough trails. Back in the day, if you look at it, the better trails, Marble Hill private property, Wollonga private property. So we just tried to join in and give back a bit. And like I said, we've had 12 hours there. They've been the best fun. You should see the girls' photos of the girls' costumes, Wizard of Oz, Kiss the Band, all riding around in these costumes. So, and we've had the 12 hours there. And we've had cross-country, we've had Geezer there, Gravity Enduro, and then the Downhill Club's been there nearly 20 years. And originally, the way the downhill track was marked out was Steve Marsh on his dad's Honda motorbike. He took off, zigzagged up the hill, up and down, 20 times, and then he went back with, I think, Homer and Luke Myers and myself. We just started bench cutting. Before we knew it, we had a downhill track. But that's how you mark them out now, you see. You just get on a dirt bike and scoot up the hill with a bit of trial skills on the dirt bike and cut a line through the scrub.
Tell us about, you're at St Agnes. You had a house at St Agnes, nice place there, trial setup, everything was great. You had everything you needed. And then you thought, no, we want to find something else. Did you specifically look to find a property that had a hill?
No.
We just wanted a little house in the country.
We went to the property to help Adelaide Mountain Bike Club build a cross-country track. I actually think, I reckon it was, I don't know who actually found the property. I'm thinking it was Gary.
Andrew.
Andrew?
Yeah, it was Andrew.
And anyway, so the property owners at the time were approached and someone said, can we build a mountain bike track on your property? And obviously they said yes.
And this is, what year? We're talking 2000-ish, early 2000s.
2004.
We bought it in 2004,
Yeah.
so this was about 2003.
Okay.
And so we went up, and Adelaide Mountain Bike Club was just doing come and help us build a track day. And so Darren and I, we went up there and we'd done our bit. And we were sitting on the hill having a sausage sizzle. And Darren says, I want to be lovely to own something like this. And, you're looking at this hill and we were just looking and you go, yeah, wouldn't it be amazing? How does that happen? Anyway, the race comes around a couple of months later, and the property's up for sale. So the owners of the property were in the football club down the end of, because it's Oval Road, so down the end of the road, and I walked up to them and just said, can I have your number because we're interested in having a look at the property to buy. I think about 3 months later we bought it.
Yeah, the rest is history.
We turned up with Mark and Julie and myself. I think Carol stayed in the house. I think Mark and I and Julie disappeared off into the scrub.
And you know what you were looking for.
And we're like, check this out. We'd already had a cross-country, one cross-country race there through the Adelaide Mountain Bike Club was held there from the Oval, up the road, around the track. And so we went walking and we were looking, going, oh, yeah. And I said, I could cut through here and do this and that. And we went back to the house and we sort of didn't want anything that big, manageable. You know, there's a lot to manage, and but we bought it. So there it began. It was pretty much from the start, it was called Dazzleland, and all the clubs jumped in, and we've had all these different events. We've had lots of events year after year.
Going there, try and manage. It wasn't made to park 100, 200 cars, and you just had to navigate weather and all sorts to accommodate all these people. Oh, how many people do you think are going to come? I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
No.
Well, the cross country, when we had a 12-hour there in the early days, 350 competitors. It actually made the Australian Mountain Bike magazine in photographs. But that was held from the Oval, so it wasn't an issue for car parking.
Yes.
And when we had the 12 hours, everybody would camp on the Oval. The first 12-hour we had there, we camped there, didn't we? And that's when the girls, they keep winning all these fancy dress costumes. They were the psychedelic sex kittens. So it was Carol and Julie and who else was it?
Taking it very seriously then.
Jenny.
And Kelly.
And
Taking
Kelly.
your fancy dress costumes very seriously.
You should see the photos. Wow. They turned up in a van, all jumped out as the band Kiss with the music playing, and it was like, there was no way they were ever going to get beat for fancy dress costumes, so...
And that's what it's about.
It wasn't about the racing. It was all about the look.
It was pretty, but it was so much fun. So, and it was quite funny because I raced there with Steve in 12-hour events as a team. So we've done it as a team. And the one year I decided to do it solo. That was 1 year. I decided not to do that again. I got a lot of cramp about 6 hours in. I remember Carol ringing me and she says, "Where are you? You haven't come through the finish line down at the Oval." Laying on the couch.
Oh, you pulled the pin.
No, I didn't. I kept going. I just
had a breather.
Pulled off the track, went inside. It was really hot, like 30-something degrees. So I had a shower.
I don't even know how to say that. They might disqualify you now.
I re-entered back on the track where I left it. So I did do the legal thing. So I did that, and I continued. I finished the 12 hours. I actually got a second, which was quite amazing. The guy in third actually got taken off to hospital for dehydration. and another time, I think it was that night actually, or I think it was that race, or it was some race, and Matty Pearce and I sitting at the bar in the footy club afterwards, and there's all people around us. And I said, I had to stop and feed the chickens because I hadn't fed the chickens. People are looking at you
There's
like...
a beeper going off in the middle of the race.
So,
Chickens need food.
oh, look, another race I did. I was... I actually was in the top two. I think I got second, actually. And I got a pinch flat on my dual suspension mongoose. So I rode it down to the shed, put the plate on the titanium mongoose, and kept going.
See, that's disqualifiable.
No, it's not. I entered back where I left the track. So
You had a different bike.
yeah, it wasn't as good. It was a bit harsh. But anyway,
Have you still got a good collection of bikes in the shed?
I've still got that mongoose titanium from the year 2000. My Monty's still there, of course. That'll never go anywhere. I've been banned from riding it, though, because I had a few beers a couple of years ago and was hopping on the rear wheel and fell off, so I was banned from riding that. There's still quite a few in there. The original mongoose that was red with the rim crushers that I used to ride at the Gump House and at the BMX tracks.
Yes, so we'll have a bit of footage of that.
That's yes, I raced a few
Marsh
races on that.
Isn't that what Marshy crashed on at Wollonga?
Yeah, that's
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
yes, he did. He
Cursed.
He came over to my house and he said, "Can I borrow your mongoose?" And I said, "Yeah, would you like a mongoose helmet to go with it, open face?" And they allowed him to race with the open face because of the historic mongoose emblem on the side. So, but yeah, Wollonga wasn't good for me. I got, an ambulance was called for me at Wollonga. You probably heard about that.
I did, but my listeners might not have.
Ah, well, a few of the mountain bikers
This
saw
was,
it.
we're talking, this was end of last year, downhill. No, they had the slalom race. Jamie made the new slalom track. Like, bring slalom back. I'm all for bringing
Yeah,
slalom
well, it
back.
wasn't long after the operation, and I'd had a lot of medication. And Carol said, "Oh, you probably shouldn't go out. It's a bit warm." "I'll be fine. I'll be fine." So I've walked up the hill. Half an hour later, I felt a bit, don't feel too good here. Carol drove me there. I wasn't allowed to drive at the time, and went in and saw Paul Giles, and had a sip of a glass of wine with him, and I collapsed on the floor. So the ambulance was called, and it was the medications, you see. So that's what I'm blaming it on.
Well, hopefully that sorts itself out, and your knee sorts itself out, and you can get back out there and show a few people.
Well, it's happened a second time. I got
Create a new level, create another league of age groups, you know.
I got an ambulance called for me a couple of months ago. So I got taken to hospital. Same thing. So just low blood pressure, not high blood pressure. And that was my first day at my new job. 1 hour in, the boss called an ambulance, got taken to hospital. I went back to the boss and said, "Do you want me to stay here?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." He says, "Just take a week off." Okay. So, but he's a good boss. So
You've had a few bosses. Who are some of the people, run us through some of the bike shops you've worked with and people you've worked with?
Okay, well, I started at St Agnes Cycles with a gentleman called Colin, very early days. Moved across to Track Cycles, was there for a good 20 years at Tea Tree Plaza, worked at a few of the other stores.
And who are some of the people? Track Cycles was quite a big shop at the time. They went from 1 shop to 2 to 3 to 4. At the time, there was no chains. There was no 99 bikes and all that sort of stuff.
That's right. Yeah, they were it. So, Steve worked at the Marion store. I worked at the Tea Tree Plaza. I worked with Josh Castle. He'll be on the microphone for the dirt jumps at the Fat Tire Festival next weekend. So I worked with Josh for a good 10 or 15 years. Chris was there for nearly the 20 years I was there. They're all good guys, and we still caught up this Christmas at the Fox and Firkin with all the boys that worked at Tea Tree Plaza. We all caught up again, so that was really good. Then it was sold. Track Cycles was sold to the Standish family.
Who were the owners at Track? Who were the main people?
Barry and Dolores Lane. They own Track Cycles. I worked with their son Damien, who's passed away from motor neurones disease, which was very sad. Lovely guy. He passed away a few years ago. They're sort of...
You didn't mention Peter Brown.
Yeah, Peter Brown. Yeah, he worked at the Ingle Farm, and I've worked down there with him and Dustin. You remember Dusty?
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, yes. Dusty passed away...
he was way too young.
He was
30.
30.
Yeah, 30.
So, and apparently his heart just stopped or something, I don't know, but he didn't turn up for work, and he was found by his flatmate, and so that was very sad. So, and then I kept working with Josh and that for a little while when it went to Standish, and then that all folded, and I was not working, sort of retired, working at home, and I bumped into the gentleman that owned Bicycles Mount Barker back then, and he asked if I could come work for him. He needed a mechanic, so I went up there and helped him out. But he sold it within, 2 years to another gentleman, Max, and his parents bought it. But Max has since sold it. He sold it last November. That was about last time I worked there, last November. Some new people have it now. It's a different name. And then when the gentleman at Stanford Mowers, which he owns 3 of the Stanford stores, I've known this gentleman for a good 10 plus years, he rang me up, sent me a message and said, "Oh, you're not working, would you like to come work for me?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so now I'm working at Stanford Mowers at Mount Barker, which is a still shop, which suits me fine because I can't buy anything. I've already bought everything over the last 20 years from this shop anyway.
So not bikes. Right now it's not bikes.
No, first time in my life since I was in my 20s that I'm not working around bicycles.
You can teach an old dog new tricks, eh?
That's what I keep telling Kaz. I come home from work and I say, I'm learning all sorts of new things with all sorts of machinery. It's a bit like a kid in a candy store seeing all these machines, big boy shop, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, it's good fun. Learning a lot. So
what do you guys look forward to now? What do you look forward to? You look like you're still full of life, both of you.
Our granddaughters.
Our granddaughters, yeah. I mean, we're very proud parents of Brad. Everybody knows Brad, and of course he's
shout out Brad.
Yeah,
there you go. Mum and Dad say
yeah. He's a gem. He's a keeper. lovely wife Jess, and Ruby, which is our little girl. But
little.
they've just had another.
She's 11.
She's 11, but they've just had another child. So we're just new grandparents again. So what do you look forward to? It's still family, it's still friends, it's still having a good time on your bikes. It's still, everyone's got to work and earn a living. But how do you do that while having a lot of fun and staying in touch with your friends? And every day, there's always something going on, and it's exciting. So if you keep that going, you'll keep going.
It's becoming hard work living on the property. She'll say to me, I don't work 8 hours a day anymore, I do 4. Come in and sleep. But, we've been there 21 years, so it's a little harder now. But, we go away with our friends all the time on holidays all over the place. Take our granddaughter with us now, Ruby, and I go riding with her, and she loves it, as long as there's not too big a hills involved. Which is pretty normal for most 11-year-olds, I'd say. So, but just loving our holidays, really, aren't we? Mm-hmm. So,
and more events at the park, more events at your place. Is that what, once or twice a year you'll do something like that?
Yeah,
or?
yeah. We it's an agreement with the council, so you've actually got to apply now for council approval to have these events on the property. That's something new that came after COVID. Up until then, you could just have an event on your property as long as you
don't sneeze on anyone.
Yeah, pretty much. But now you've got to, in the Adelaide Hills, you've got to have permission from them to hold these events, which is fine. So we've got an agreement with them that we can have up to 2 events a year. Up to a number of competitors at each of the event, and then you just follow all the rules, which we always did anyway, so that's not hard. And so, if people want to, the clubs still want to come and have an event, we're looking at, what else can we do? Can people learn to ride mountain bikes, use the property to learn to ride a mountain bike rather than try and learn it in the middle of a race?
The Gravity Girls came up as a group and had a ride, like a come ride day, so that was good.
Yeah, and have a bit of a look, do something
So just because
different.
your knee doesn't work, Dazzle, doesn't mean that it's stopping.
No. If I have to ride recreation, I have to ride recreation. That's what I've come to the conclusion. But as for going on holidays with all my friends and
running mountain bike events
and having fun, that won't stop.
No.
And until I get too old, do you want to buy a farm, mountain bike park?
Maybe
it will be up for sale in the years to come.
Yeah. It'll be.
If it had a creek in it, I just want a house with a creek. That was my dream.
Well,
we got a dam.
The house was built in 1860, so it's a very old house. So, but it doesn't creak.
Does it creak? No, it doesn't creak.
But one day it'll be up for sale.
Yeah, I will not be able to keep maintaining it in the years to come. It's just too hard. The fortunate thing is with the mountain bike side of it is the clubs do most of the work. I help. I'm there. I'll use a whippersnipper. I don't
do what you can.
Yeah, do what I can. So to keep things going. So, it's the club that's done a lot. A lot of people in the club have done so much to keep it going. So keep the track there.
Well, you guys have kept it going for a long time, so it seems like it's a pretty fair trade,
Yeah. Well, it's better.
I think a lot of the club owes you guys a lot with a humble approach to it as well. I don't know if this isn't for young kids, but they might go, "Who are these people? This is probably we just come and ride our bikes." No, there's a bit of respect that's due. There's a bit of kudos for what the two of you have done for this whole community, The
young kids that are there today, they don't know of us. They see Kaz race, but they don't know of us. They'll see me getting around with the walkie-talkie, with the quad bike, but they don't actually realise the history from back 30 years ago. So they're just young kids, and they come
like
up
us
and
with Peter Mack. Like,
yes,
I don't know. You know the story of Peter Mack, and you will be. You're the new Peter Mack, as far as I'm concerned. A lot of people go like everyone in the original mountain bike community would know that name.
Yeah,
and with full respect, you're probably the next name to carry on that legacy, I think. Dazzle and Carol.
Makes it sound like we're getting old.
No, well, I didn't know how old Peter Mack was. Probably young when we knew of him. You know, you're still young. We're all still young, aren't we?
I hope so. So I feel like I've got a lot of life left in me.
You're as young as you feel.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I see it. I don't see it as anything other absolute privilege to have been in this position. We got a lot out of it. We enjoyed every moment. We enjoy every moment of it. It's not something that we did for any other reason than to have a good time. And if you've got an opportunity to help something continue, I think that's just, part and parcel of having a good life. So I see it no other than it's been an absolute privilege.
Yeah, we've always given back. Carol herself has been involved with a group called Mishmash, and they've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Cancer Council over the years. So it's just, you just give back, It's good karma. Give a little back. So,
look, we could talk for hours and hours and hours. All my stuff runs flat and everything here. Well, we've still got a bit to go. Like we're not shutting this down just yet. But would you like to throw a few thanks out? If this is a moment, like you said, it's always hard naming names because you're worried about forgetting stuff. But is there a few people you'd both like to mention and go, here's a minute?
We've mentioned a lot of people, and they've, been very inspirational and very, helps you to be who you are, and it grounds you. Darren's the one that keeps me grounded. I'm not the grounded one; he is. But yeah, you just want to thank people that are always there for you, and we've mentioned those names. So. But yeah, huge call out to that, Julian Mark Harris, huge call out to, Paul and Mon and Aurelia and Jason, and, there's always, there's Jimmy Meir, there's, and then there's those other people that like yourself and Gary and Glenn and Luke and then, just amazing people like Steve, like it was always a pleasure to have Steve,
a light like that in your life to go,
yes.
This is what is possible.
Yeah. And but then there's other, there's Luke Radnor, and like Maxine Radnor is probably a name that we haven't mentioned. She was such a, she was always there.
Loved a cordial.
Radnor mix.
The Radnor mix.
The best. We could not make the better iced crushed cordial.
Yeah.
She was always there. Always there, and always helpful. Always wanted to do something. Always wanted to be a part of it. So to have Maxine around, and then Benny A. Like he was always there. Whatever
Still
he was,
to this
and
day.
he's still to this day. And you catch up with him. And then you've got Graham, Angus Graham. Like I catch up with him in
Club Safari.
Every now and again, and you just go, hi, Pat Fitzpatrick, and his dad. He had his dad was in the SES, and so they used to always turn up at races and help us out, and so these are all the people that you just keep thinking of and going,
And it's still going on today.
The more
within
time
the
you
club.
think, you'd go, there's another.
Yeah, and then
There's a whole new generation within the club today, the people that we meet now that are helping out, and a big thanks to them, because if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't be it's very efficient now, a lot more efficient than the walkie-talkie days and the stopwatches.
But I
Who are
suppose-
some of those?
But the other people we haven't mentioned is people like Chris and Baden.
Brosnan,
Troy's, Brosnan, Troy's parents.
They took over presidency for a
she
while.
did, yes.
And
She
they
helped.
did an amazing job. And
Joff.
And then you've
Look
got
at all the work
Joff,
Joff does.
Grant Allen. I remember I had Joff and Grant. We were running a national event at Willunga Hill, and there was thousands of people at that event. The park was chock-a-block full, with the parking area chock-a-block full. People were parking all the way down Louds Road, all the way down to the main road at Wollonga. I can't remember how many competitors we had, but hundreds of competitors. And if it wasn't for Grant and Joff on that day, I don't know how we would have pulled it off, because they were up the top, getting everybody to the top, everybody getting lined up so they could do their race and things like that. And so Joff and Grant were just instrumental there.
Joff's still doing it today. He was there Saturday and Sunday helping out, and he raced as well on his e-bike.
Yeah. And of course, then you see their kids. They're out there with their kids.
Bree raced.
And then you see,
And their kids are nearly adults all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And then
Bree
Grant's
stayed
out
at
there
our
with-
house Saturday night because Dad's a baker and had to go off to work, so
and
she stayed there.
Yeah, Grant's out there with his children, and you just sort of think, how does this all evolve?
I rode with Grant prior to the knee out at Fox Creek. We did Ant Logic and that, and boy, he's quick.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether he's on a bicycle or he's whatever.
Bicycle or a tricycle.
Man,
or a
he was
unicycle,
quick. I'm like,
whatever,
this
yeah.
guy's flying down this mountain.
Yeah.
So,
And then we had, when we were doing the group, when it was Jen, Kelly, Julie and I, and we were doing all this group racing, and we were doing all these 12 and 24 hours together. We had so much fun dressing up and coming up with things and dance routines and all sorts. Who would have thought that was
it
part
was
of mountain
full
biking?
on.
So it's fun.
It's
mountain biking is
it's
fun.
fun.
people.
Yeah.
And it's forever. And you can walk away from it for a while if you've had enough. Then you can come back to it, and it's like you
You never left.
never left.
Well, I had a big break. In the middle, and it's just like we never left,
And that's what's the beauty of it.
You should come to the Fat Tire Festival. You'd love catching up with everyone. So
Kazal mentioned a few names. Again, you've mentioned a few.
yeah.
But is there a few shout-outs or a few...
Oh, there's so many people over the years that you got to meet within the club. Some are still there, some are gone, but there's just so many people there. It's a community. They all wanted to help. Everybody wanted to get involved. If you could just help, you just do it. It's like on the weekend, I had to zip off and do some car park duties. Had the quad bike, so I'm going up that way because we've limited where we can park because they built the Amigilla Bikeway. So even still today, I'm down there on the quad bike directing traffic, which is a funny story because I came back and I had the dog outside and I went inside. Where's the dog? And I said to Carol, where's Summit? She goes, he was with you. I'm like, he's not here. Well, no, I don't know where he is. Well, apparently he took all the kids on the track walk. So I'm asking people, and he's going, he walked up with the kids. He's gone for a track walk with the kids. He's got his Frisbee. They're all throwing the Frisbee for him. So I'm like, okay. So I hopped on the quad bike, went up to the start gate. There he is, sitting there, smiles, giving the kids his Frisbee. They're throwing it for the track walk. So, but that was delightful to see. But, and we have to put him inside because we can't have him running around while the event's on.
No,
So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
But I think you need to call out some of the newer people like Dave Crouch and Dave.
I don't know all their names.
It's
There's
like
Damien,
3
Doug.
decades.
Yeah.
Again,
just-
I'm putting you on the spot and say, rattle off a few names. 30 years, you got
It's so
3,000
hard.
names.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
But
a lot of people.
There's a lot of people, and you sit here and you go, oh yeah, what about them? But it's just amazing that this thing called mountain biking can just bring so many people together and just
That's
keep
the
doing
common
it.
bond, isn't it?
Yeah.
You could be a lawyer, a doctor, a tradie, unemployed student, whatever. You're common bond, and it doesn't matter. Everyone gets along and
Yeah.
hang out.
It's funny now because a lot of the people that used to race are now dads and their kids are racing. It's like I bumped into a guy that raced the 24-hour for Mongoose. I got him involved with Sam Davies and 2 ring-ins from interstate so we could win the 24-hour, which the South Australian guys didn't like me after that for doing that. But we won. We had Sam Willow Williamson, if you remember Willow, and Nick Corrali. Anyway, we had these boys. And the lad that I got to go on that team so Mongoose could win it, he came up to me on the weekend and his 10-year-old just turned 10, just started racing this year. Talented little lad. Unfortunately, Dad hasn't got that much talent because he broke his collarbone in practice.
bad?
3 ribs.
We had an accident. He might have talent. He might have talent. He's still.
That was good. It was
I know
brilliant.
plenty of talented
brilliant.
people with a broken collarbone.
Yeah, brilliant at the cross country. Did the 12 hours up Mt Torrens, but I was a bit. He was up there. I didn't see what happened.
We
but
haven't mentioned. I just said to you, Mobbridge boys.
yeah,
Ah,
Dean,
yes.
The Mobbridge, Dean
catching up
and
with them at
Rowan.
Christmas.
Yeah, we caught up with them at Christmas, and you just go,
Well, Homer built Homer was responsible for the majority of the track work at Mt Torrens in those days.
Craig Yates and. I can remember standing at a national event with Craig, and I said, Craig, you're going to have to tell me what line to take because I can't work it out. And he looked at me at first and he went, oh, I don't know if I can help you. And I said, well, tell me what line you take. Anyway, he told me what line he took, and I went, oh, well, I'm never going to do that. But, it doesn't matter who you are and who they are. They just help. They just...
That's mountain biking, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a family.
And-
It's a very tight-knit family, and today we still catch up with everyone.
And then, it's just that, even, it doesn't matter who you are. We see Troy and he just has a chat, and you see Connor and we just have a chat. And it's just, that's how nice it is.
I got a fantastic photo on my phone of one of the coaching camps we did at Eagle Mountain Bike Park. And I'm there with Ryan Norton, who was helping me at the coaching clinic. And Troy's there in the cycle gallery top with his little blonde afro, about 13 years old. It's like, oh boy, he's come a long way.
That's great. Yes.
Yes.
We've seen some young kids go from this to champions. And Adelaide doesn't even have any big hills, but we've got some pretty talent in BMX, in mountain biking,
Yeah.
in
Road
dirt
cycling,
jumping, road cycling.
I remember meeting Cadell Evans at Mount Beauty, wasn't it? He was about 17. And it was hilarious. And we were on the bus going up the top of the hill, and there I am sitting on a seat next to Cadell Evans. And, I just started talking to him because he's just looking at me as if I'm some person with 2 heads or something.
What do you know?
But,
But back in the days, you'd sit next to anybody on the bus.
Yes.
So,
It was such a small
Small
community.
community,
You
yeah.
talk to everyone.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
what do you
would.
do? Oh, what do you
Yeah.
yeah. But,
and then you'd see him at the after the nationals. You'd see him at the big parties they used to have. So
The after parties were always a
my
lot
God.
of fun, weren't they? And South
They were
Australians were
fantastic.
pretty. We knew how to party, didn't we? I think.
come on.
I think
We-
all the sponsorship,
we knew how to party.
all the money, the sponsorship, the corporate stuff came from interstate. Sydney, Melbourne. That's where all the elites were. But when it came to the fun and the party, I think South Australians
without
ruled
a
the
doubt,
roost.
I agree with that.
some of
Although,
those parties were just,
scary.
you don't want to talk too much about them.
No,
Fireworks, crackers, fireworks,
Firecrackers,
dazzle,
yeah.
dazzle. You are.
don't know anything about fireworks.
If you bring up that word with any of us younger crew, one name would be at the top, and it would be dazzle.
Oh, they shouldn't have it legal in Canberra, should they? So,
I don't think they do anymore. I think
okay.
I
think
think you put the straight.
it wasn't you. It
I'd
wasn't
bring-
all you.
I'd bring back suitcases.
It wasn't all you.
So, yeah. It was good fun. It was just good fun, and that's unique. The fireworks were unique. Couldn't get them here in Adelaide, so we'd buy them and have fun. So,
Yes, we would.
but the parties, they definitely.
They were.
I can remember some in Canberra, a couple in Canberra at different places, and Mount Beauty. I remember one in Mount Beauty that we had. One of the boys that was staying with us literally passed out from probably having too much alcohol, and we were looking for him, and we went outside, and there was a lady nursing him. She says, "Oh, I'll look after him," and we're like looking at this lady. We're looking. He'll probably see this and he'll probably know who I'm talking about. And I'm like, no, I think we'll take him from here. So we were unsure where he was going to end up. So
It might have been taken advantage of. You ruined his night, Dazzle.
It was an older local lady, so there's a
You ruined his night.
No, well, apparently
Maybe.
the next morning you
Maybe
wake
we
up
can say.
naked in someone else's bed
Yes,
anyway.
yes.
In where we were staying.
Yeah.
So we didn't ruin anyone.
Sometimes what goes on tour stays
Goes
on
on
tour.
tour, yeah.
Those parties were incredible.
Well,
So,
that's it. Yeah, that's where you leave it.
Yeah, they were incredible. So
Hey, look, we're coming close to the end here. As I get close to the end, I like to put a headspace into the thoughts of someone that's today, their day isn't the best of days. They're having a bad day. You guys have had a bad day. It's a knee, it's a work, it's a family, it's a whatever. If you had that bad day, how do you look forward to the next day? What gets you through? What's your thought process?
I think for me, it's always that that tomorrow's just going to be a better day. Today's bad. It can't get any worse. So tomorrow's going to be a better day. So it's remaining with that optimism. And you just get up the next day to do it. But what gets you through is I'm lucky. I've got this bloke. He is always there. And as I said, he's the grounded one. I'm not. So he keeps me grounded. But it's not only that, it is, you know that people do it tough. I mean, I work in the health industry, so I see you people doing it really tough. So you always know there's someone doing it tougher than you. And you sort of then say, okay, then I'm good at being there for people and helping people. So that's what gets me going to the next day. But if you need to talk to somebody, just talk to somebody. I think the beauty of it is there's always somebody there.
we've always had each other to talk to, haven't we?
Yeah.
And we've been lucky. We've been blessed. Good friends, good family. So especially good friends. So met so many people and still in contact with so many of them. So
And it's good. You guys sound like you've got a great friendship group. You've got a great partnership, but not everyone has that.
Yeah.
What do you say to the person that doesn't have Dazzle by your side? Not everyone's got a Dazzle. I guarantee it. You are very fortunate.
Oh, definitely. I know how lucky I am. In my world, in my work world, I talk to a lot of people that are in that position, and it's, what can I do for you? Who can I connect you with? Tell me a bit about what's going on. Is there something that I have knowledge of that I can share with you? But sometimes it's for that, sometimes people just want you to listen and just hear what they've got to say. And so it's being there for them at that time. I suppose, I'm fortunate I'm not in that position. I've always got somebody. So what I try and do with those people is how can I get you connected with somebody that can help you?
A good set of ears.
But it's a good set of ears for a lot of people.
communication with other people is always good. If you can
What about
talk
you?
to people.
Yeah, what about you, Dazzle?
Just talk.
Yeah, sounds like you've been very fortunate, but there's been downtimes. You've had fire at your property. Your property's devastated. You've got a knee injury. You've got family issues.
Oh, that
When you're
was-
really at that rock bottom day, it's like, fucking hell, like, how do I get through today?
Yeah, well, the day I went in by myself, had to get in to get to my property and find all the animals that were burnt and passed away. And I was walking down the driveway. Things were still burning. A mate rang me, and I was talking to him, and I literally fell to my knees and in tears. I just got back up, and I had to do things. I had to run around and fix things and do things and look after the animals that were still alive. So they were there for me. Our property is a little bit like a hobby farm at the moment, especially for the granddaughter with all the different animals. And just to help, I just moved on. I just had to go and help the
Clearly,
animals.
you
that are
love your
alive.
animals.
Oh, yeah.
And when your animals are suffering, it's hard.
Yeah, on Christmas Eve we had alpacas, and their feet were burnt. So after the fires, about 4 days later, the vets had to come in and put them down. That was pretty sad, especially on a Christmas Eve. But went and saw all our families on Christmas Day, and we just got to keep going. just got to move on. So, walking around with my granddaughter over the last 11 years and seeing the joy on her face with all the different animals, from the cows to my pet emu, which is a bit of an oddity, but from the dog, the geese, she's got silky bantams, chickens, goats. She's got her own goat that she walks on a lead, dehorned, and boy, that really brings a smile to your face. And you know then that it's worthwhile, to see the granddaughter happy like that. It's definitely worthwhile. And we just had another granddaughter born last Thursday. So it looks like we've got to go through it all again. So I'm going to have to live a lot longer.
Really? Got to get that knee bending a bit more, Dazzle.
Yeah, look, if I can just ride with them recreational, I'll be happy. I'll take her out to trails that we can ride. Like when you go to Melrose, you've got Wallawi. Have you been to Wallawi?
I've done a bit of Melrose, but I haven't done Wallawi, no.
Well, that's good for kids. It's Ruby's favourite, I'd say, isn't it? Because it's recreational and it's really good fun. So good for adults too, but it's recreational. So that's probably where I'm looking at the moment. So I haven't totally given up. I'll be taking my bike to Melrose and I'll be trying to ride as best I can. So
Brilliant.
Yeah. The fires were pretty bad though. They really hit both of us.
Rocksha.
Carol wanted to sell the property. She was devastated by it. Everything was burning.
You've moved past that. Life goes on.
Yeah, life goes on, yeah.
Best win. Finish up. Best win. What's a win? What's a win for you, Carol? What's a win? Like, you're competitive. I'm not talking about a race. It could be in your work environment. Like, you have many examples where you can win. What's a really good win?
The thing that I get a lot out of is that if I can do something that influences somebody else to have a good day, then I'm a winner. And that's what I'm all about. And hopefully that's shone through in everything I do.
I think it has. Dazzle, what's a really good win for you?
Watching Carol get on the podium. Love it. It excites me. Bit disappointed on the weekend. I helped them packed up and I rushed down the hill to take a photo and presentation's over. But yeah, I love it when she gets on the podium. So, because she loves it when she gets on the podium next to her friend Julie. Her and Julie, just seeing her and Julie together. As for all the wins that I've had and all the medals that I've had, they've just been fun. It's just been part of my life. It's all been fun. I was competitive, but at the same time, it's that.
It didn't matter if you were first or second or
No, I'd
fifth.
still go home happy. I get second. I'd still go home happy. Third, still go home happy. Fourth, No, I was always pretty happy, whatever happened. So, and both of us have been there for each other. One year, Carol fell off at Beauty and couldn't drive home, so I had to drive her home. Another year, I fell off at Beauty and she had to drive me home. So another year, I drove Homer and Steve in the blue van, and Steve's an older girlfriend from years ago, Barb, and we all went to Canberra. Now, Homer couldn't drive, right?
He didn't have a licence at that stage, did he?
No. Steve and his lady at the time got seriously crook. So I had to drive him all the way home. That was so bad. The tissues built up in the back of the van. They were crook as dogs. So I'm saying to Homer, I've got to stop for a coffee. So I think it was like a 14 or 15 hour drive in that little blue van. So, yeah, bit of fun. So
A lot of fun.
Yes.
It sounds like the both of you have had a lot of fun. It sounds like you've got a lot more fun to go. We are going to call this the end of the exercise.
Yep.
The end of this little show. I'm going to bring a little bit of music up. So happy to have had you guys here, and here's some of the stuff that you've done. Such a brilliant couple, such a brilliant life. Many more years to come for both of you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
I think we're going to call it a wrap.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Well, there you go. Hopefully that worked.
I'm not doing that again.
That was good.
Boy, that brings
Brilliant.
back a lot of memories, doesn't it?
Thank you.
You start.